And I was listening to this frequency music on YouTube, and literally I heard the word the Dragon Ally. And I'm like, oh, okay, what is that? And then I kind of energetically opened up my eyes. I didn't physically open my eyes, but I energetically opened up my eyes to expand out and see what was going on. And there were literally dragons laying, standing, sitting, just all around me. And it was just a very, very beautiful thing to witness. Very much so. When you think about all the different realms and dimensions, if you will, whether it's in this space timeline or a different space timeline, it's really remarkable that, first of all, humanity is here on this planet, that we're very consciously aware of our inner children, a number of us, is that our parents, their inner child was shut down. Their parents' inner child was shut down. So this comes from a long line of being shut down. And we may be the first in the generations to actually let that inner child out. I want to say something to what you just said there, because I think it's really important to understand what you've just said is you were in this position of you were doing things naturally. You may not have recognized the power of them. And when you did this quiz, you started to recognize a whole different idea of this. And this is very much of recognizing your zone of genius, that this is actually a natural thing that I can lean into.
Pardon, is it just me, or is the universe feeling a little extra judgy today?
Affirmative, but someone's still trying to reach you.
Incoming transmission. Emotional signature. Joy, strength, resilience. Designation. Dragon Initiate. Inner Child Code unlocked. Welcome aboard, Sandra Pelley. The Stargate of Self has been activated. The Council welcomes you.
Captain LA here of the Ether Voyager. How are you?
I am fine. It's the Sandini here.
Oh, I love
the chameleon.
it. Yes, the chameleon. And I was feeling some sort of energy, really magnetic and electric. And I feel it's coming from your ship. I'm getting chills already. And we haven't even talked yet. So I'm so excited.
I can feel the energy of that. It's this beautiful dragon energy. You'll probably recognize the dragon scales on my ship.
I do. I saw it and I said, oh, I feel the electricity. So one thing I like to do when I meet other cosmic travelers out here is just to break the ice a bit with my cosmic wheel of wisdom. And so we spin the wheel, it lands on a random question, and you can answer it to the best of your ability. How's that sound?
Love it. My inner dragon is chomping at the bit.
Yes, all right. The cosmic wheel of wisdom. And let's share our screen. Spin the wheel. If you could rename Earth, what would you call it?
Testing ground.
Oh, yeah, I like that one. Absolutely. Truer words were never spoken.
On so many levels, right? Like it's
Right.
just really, really remarkable. Yeah.
Yes, it's like you come here to just kind of test out whatever and figure it out. Like, let's try these little humanoid creatures over here, mix them up with a little reptilian and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I feel like that sums up the world.
Yeah, very much so. When you think about all the different realms and dimensions, if you will, whether it's in this space timeline or a different space timeline, it's really remarkable that, first of all, humanity is here on this planet.
Yes.
That we're very consciously aware of our inner children, a number of us, and like I said, you probably noticed the scales on my ship.
Yes.
That inner dragon energy is something that's being brought forward for humanity to start to step into now. And to the inner child is that protector, and the inner dragon is the action taker. So when we talk about this beautiful testing ground that we're on, these tests keep getting put in front of us.
mm,
And it's how are we going to react to these tests? Because we have a negative way to react and we have a positive way to react, or we have that non-committal way to react, which in any case is going to serve you or disserve you, whatever
mm.
the case is, right? So it's just there's a lot of power that people are not yet recognizing, or let's call them something else. Is it humanity? The testes?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I want to use that word, but
I
yeah,
know.
there's something very dynamic that we're being asked to step into.
Mm,
Are we stepping into it? Right?
mm. Yes, I love that. And yeah, I like to think of Earthlings as little infants, trying to figure out everything. And yeah, it's this energy that actually I was talking to a few people and they said that they felt dragon energy beginning in December. And I can attest to that as well. And like I say, because we have these timelines, it isn't like we cross over into January and automatically restart something new, right? It's a nice transition. And so, yeah, I feel like the dragons of the world are getting activated. And something else that you just mentioned, inner child, the inner child of humanity. And I feel that this energy is one of play. How do you
Yes.
feel about that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much so. What's interesting is there's ley lines literally all over the earth, which are, connected with the greater energy, if you will, dragon energy. And when we think about the inner child, we have this opportunity to really discover for each of ourselves what do we want to step into. And I know I've said that a couple of times. It's more about what feeling do we want
Mm,
to experience in our life, because if you're feeling miserable, you actually have the ability to change that and shift into something that is more pleasurable. And yes, there are some steps to do that, and you've probably heard this before. However, really starting to recognize and start to buy into, if you will, that you do have the power to make that change for yourself. Because as long as you think it is in somebody else's hands, you are forever pushing yourself down into the mud. So when you
mm,
choose to go, okay, you know what, my inner child's been crying out for a long time. It's been showing me these numbers. It's been showing me that, you know what, it's showing me ice cream right now.
mm,
It's showing me a swing. It's showing me the blue sky, right? It's showing me things that actually bring me joy. Do I choose to step into going and doing these things that are joyful? Well, sometimes I resist. And in that resistance, how am I feeling? I'm feeling worse
mm,
again,
mm.
right? So choosing instead to pay attention to the things that are being put in front of us that are pleasurable, if you will. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And had to learn to re-embrace that childlike energy because you become an adult and you start belting
Yeah.
and things get so serious and it's like, oh, we have to do stuff like this, and it's like, oh, but we have fun on the weekends, and it's like living for the weekend was never
Mm.
my idea of living, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I used to look at my parents and I said to myself, yeah, no, I don't think I want that. I don't want to try to scrape out time to have fun. Uh, it's like is this show actually a Korean show, and I resonated with the guy so much because he's like, yeah, I just enjoy life, and I ask myself whenever I do something, is this fun? Do I really enjoy it? And if the answer is no, then I don't do it. And I was like, yeah, I can say now I'm at this point where I'm like, am I having fun? If not, then what's the point? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to take that a step further and actually give people a tool. If
Mm,
you're doing something, label it 0 to 10. 10 being the most enjoyable, 0 being the least enjoyable. And then find that line between that 0 and 10 that is acceptable.
mm,
And anything below that acceptable line, start to work towards or play towards getting rid of that out of your life, whatever
Mm.
that looks like, or adapting new habits in it. Because sometimes we can't get rid of things out of our life. Like right now, I'm currently in a position where this is where I live. This is not where I want to live. I want to be living with a
Mm.
travel trailer or in a mobile, being nomadic. That's what I
Yeah.
want to do. I want to be nomadic. I'm unable to do that, so I'm going to enjoy what I can here now. How do
Mm.
I find things that make that enjoyable? I get out and I walk around in the nature outside my house, right? So my job is in my house. This is my office right now, right? So it's finding those things. It's like the other day I moved my desk so that it had a different view behind me when I'm on camera, right? So I'm enjoying the dragonflies, the whales jumping in the water. Yes, Han. um, yeah, depending on whether you can see that in my panel behind me in the spaceship or not. Like it's just really kind of stepping into the energy of um, adapting my life in a different way, starting to look at how do I produce joy or happiness or laughter in my life on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, because I'm so bang on believe what you just said there about your parents. Weekend warriors, weekend playmates, that's not any fun. It's having this on a consistent basis, right?
Mm.
It's why you fly the universe, because you're looking for those spots of joy, right? Just like myself.
Absolutely. So perfectly said. If I could just backtrack there, where we have to find the joy in the moment. And one thing I was thinking about a lot is, you know, going through depression my entire life
Mm.
and losing track of the joy in the present moment, right? Because I think for me, that was a part of the depression because I'm living too far in the future or thinking about the past and missing what's happening right here, right now. And it wasn't until life made me stay still and I had no choice but to say, oh, this is the situation. And either I can just sit here and sulk and be super depressed about it and just be stuck, or I can find the beauty in the moment. And when I was able to really just start looking at the joy in the mundane everyday life, I felt that it was so much magic just in every day, the little stuff. And that completely shifted my perspective
Mhm.
um, on not only about thinking too far in the future, but also about what it means to be abundant and grateful for everything that I am right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
I had, and I'm not sure if it was a similar situation, but I was put into a situation through a series of events where I was, in essence, bedbound for a number of weeks. And in that process, I chose to have a deck of oracle cards with me. And now I use the word oracle cards. You can use a book, any book, honestly. You can use seriously any book. When you flip open the page, let your hand feel where it wants to stop. Read that line, step into that line in that it is wants to lead you in the direction of something playful or fun. Instead of thinking, oh, that's a bad thing. No, step into the energy of where's this leading me playfully? And that started to really change my life in that moment. I remember the very first card that I pulled was actually an elk, and it's all about stamina and strength. Today I
Mm,
pulled two cards and it was an otter and a dragon, like
yeah.
two totally different types of animals, and yet both mean so very much to me.
Mm,
So recognizing the power of what's being put in front of you, just like dragonflies, just like children, hearing children's laughter, if you will, allow yourself to experience the joy that they're experiencing in that moment, I guess.
mm, yes, yes. And I shared a little bit about my struggle with depression. Can you tell me a little bit about your story? How you had to overcome depression and addiction?
Oh my gosh. Truly, I talked about how that was bedbound for a couple of weeks. It actually started probably 2 decades before that when I dislocated my pelvis on both sides and literally had pills everywhere in my house. Every
mm,
drawer, every cupboard, every nook and cranny in all our vehicles, in my pack sacks, and
mm,
everything. And it was when I started to take control of my own life, when I started to recognize what I was doing and wanted to make a change. That's such a critical piece, is when we want to make a change. That's when I started to look for help. And it actually came in the form of a book, which was
mm.
very, very powerful. And that book, am I able to say the title of that book? Okay, that book is actually called MAP. It's the Medical Assistance Program by Michelle Small Wright. And in the process of doing the things that she suggested in that, I actually broke the habit, the addiction, if you will, of the pain pills that I was taking multiple, like not maybe necessarily by the handful, although it feels like the handful looking back on that period of my
Right.
life. That I was definitely in survival mode, and where I am currently is so really a lot different. Like, there was things about how I spoke to myself too through that
Mm,
whole period, changing how I spoke to myself, stop calling myself bad names, or
mm,
saying that I am an idiot, or I am a this, or I am a that, but choosing to instead to say something more powerful, like I am my inner child, I am Sandra, I am the Sandini, I am the galactic shaman, right? I am these powerful pieces that I am. I am that I am, right?
yes, absolutely. And that speaks to the power of words, the frequencies that we one, everything is frequencies, everything is energy, right? And so, like you just said, we have this choice that we can make. We can either say negative things to ourselves or positive things. And it changes how we feel internally. It changes our perspective, good or bad. So it's really, the choice is yours. You can really just feed into the negativity or feed into something positive, because either way, uh, what you say will be reality. So yeah, just really, I love that, changing uh, how you speak to yourself. That was something I also had to learn. I grew up in an environment where, very hard on yourself is how you're supposed to be, right? Because if you're hard on yourself, you get stuff done, and all that mindset that I had to shift. Um, and I realized, like, okay, well, when I'm saying if I didn't achieve goals today, maybe my whole list of goals, because, well, I'm very goal oriented and I do have my list, but I'm more relaxed these days. But before, it's like, all right, I have this list and I need to achieve all the things on my list. And if I don't, then, oh, you're lazy, or, you're not working hard enough. And it was just the way that I was raised, where, we put value by what you accomplish. And to really say, you know what, well, first of all, I'm not making a list of 20 things to do. Let's start with five. And then if I can do three out of that five today, oh, awesome. You did more than half your list today. And that, like, oh, yeah. So I feel good. I accomplished most of the list, and I'm okay with that. Instead of, oh, I only did three out of five. And so you didn't work hard enough today. And it was something I really had to work through. Oh,
You said something super powerful right there. Work, 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 work hard. We're often told you've done a good job. Everything is geared in our society in North America that it's a job and that it
mm,
takes hard work to do anything. And
yeah.
therefore, when we do something, it's a good job. Even if
Mm,
all you've done is done a paint by numbers as a child, you're still
mm,
told good job. So
mm,
everything is literally geared towards it making it look like there isn't supposed to be fun in our lives, that it's this we got to do this kind of energy. And when I have really stepped into shifting out of the word work and into play,
mm,
or something else, like action. I like that's well done,
mm,
much better than good job. That's a beautiful action that you're doing there, instead of the
Mm.
work that you're doing. It's just, we're so, um, I want to say it. We're very brainwashed into
Yeah,
thinking that it's a job that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and our life does not have to be this way. It truly doesn't. We need to erase that out of our vocabulary.
yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And then I didn't even think about it like like good job, but you're absolutely right. It's like everything is geared towards what are you accomplishing,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I woke up today and I took a shower. Well, good. You know,
But for some people, that's a big deal.
yes, yes. So but it was a long mm, unprogramming that I had to do. Um,
So,
yeah, and I still catch myself sometimes because it's just so ingrained in our culture, that it's just hard sometimes. You just kind of just get wrapped up in it, like doing, and it's like, stop, just like be, just exist, and that's enough. One of the things I really enjoyed, I don't know if you've heard of Cryon.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. There was this little segment that it was like a 15-minute video they took out of one of his channelings called "Stop Acting Like a Human," and it was so powerful because in that it's like, listen, we're told that we have to do these things when really eh, you are the embodiment of God. You're the embodiment of love. And just by your existence, you deserve everything. Everything is there for you, and there is nothing that you have to do. And so I like to listen to that sometimes, because I am very goal oriented, and I have all these projects and all of these things, and sometimes I can, it can get away with me, and I just have to remember, like, okay, like just it's okay. You just have to be. You don't have to do anything. So if you didn't do what you wanted to do today, then that's okay. You weren't supposed to do that today. You were just supposed to do whatever it was, even if it was just sitting there, watching TV for the day. Well, that's perfectly fine. But
There's,
yes, that thing like a human.
yeah, and I just want to expand on that because I think this is a really critical thing that you've just said there. For the past 2 years, I actually have chosen to allow my thinking to go beyond the human concept of things. And because of that, there are people around me who are now choosing to do the same thing. And because of that, we collectively are now creating this ripple, right? And it means that we're finding it easier to stay in that playful energy. We're finding it easier to recognize that these are constructs or these are things that are put in place to hold us in a certain way. And when we decide to move past that human concept, I'm very, very much about that really recognize what is it that's in front of you. Is this something that a human being has created? And our, like, when you think about the brain is this massive piece of energy that we are supposedly only using a little iota of. And if that's the case, there's all that other piece. This iota is the human concept, that
Mm,
all the rest of that brain is anything else that we could be bringing into whatever we're doing,
mm-hmm,
and move on out of that human concept. Yes,
mm.
we are a human being here, or yes, we're a soul energy living in a human being. Whatever it is, we could still start to expand past the limitations that have been put on us because of somebody else's way of thinking.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I've been doing the same, right? Thinking in a way that has the limitations of the human experience removed. So really. one of my things is I used to do I used to do dark meditation, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that because um, so dark matter we know is what the majority of the universe is made up of, and so why I enjoyed that was because when you're in that dark space, in essence, the idea is that you're tapping into the dark energy, the dark matter, which is expansive and really limitless. And in that, it's amazing, like the ideas that will come. This is something that, I couldn't even think of, like just on my own, right? Just the feeling, the connection that I would feel. It was almost like when I would go into that dark space, I used to do it in a closet because that was like the darkest I could get it. But it was
Yes.
almost like instantly I was in the universe,
Your
just like that.
focus changes.
Yes, yes. And through that, and I used to do this like many, many years ago, but through that, that was when I realized like, oh, like we are so much more connected than I thought. Like this is probably like 10 years ago. Um, and through that, I realized, you know what, at this point, anything that I thought that my goals or aspirations, I wipe it. And I want to be guided by the expansion of the universe, no limits. I don't want to put any boundaries on myself. And through that, life is like, okay, is that what you want? I'm like, yeah. And it was like, okay, well, we're going to open you up to this. I went through a lot, but it expanded my world and put me in a direction that I could have never dreamed of. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's so powerful. Looking at the things you want, and it's so interesting because it's not like you need to be realistic. You don't need to be unrealistic either,
right.
but finding that happy medium. So, in my mind, maybe it's oh, I want $1 million. Well, technically, is that realistic in the point of view where I am right now?
Right.
No. But what do I want to do with that $1 million? Well, I
Right.
would travel. Okay, well, what would that travel look like? As I
Hmm.
mentioned here, I would love to have a travel trailer. Personally, we have a camperized van right now, which is beautiful. We're just really recognizing we want something different. So when we see these bits and pieces, do I actually need $1 million to travel? No, I
Right.
don't. I can travel like you said, going into the closet. I can
Hmm.
travel. Like there's so many different ways to do these things. If people would start to recognize they don't have to do it the way that they've been shown or taught, that this is the only way to do this. You have to
Right.
be rich, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. So my husband sat there looking at all kinds of different homes for us in a different location the other day. Was that something that was useless? No, not at all. That was putting out to the energy, to the divine,
Mm,
to this universe, to the multiverses. This is the direction we want to go, so that it can then provide for us.
yes. Absolutely. I second that motion. Yeah. I definitely practice that. Like, and the one thing, as you said, I realized you really don't need, I don't want to say you don't need money, because
I get
obviously,
it.
money is a tool and we need that, but we don't need as much as we think we do
That's
to
right.
make stuff happen. I realize that abundance and resources comes in so many different ways. And in my mind, it used to be, and a lot of us are taught, that resources and abundance comes a certain way. And once I let go of that way of thinking, which actually only happened probably like 2 years ago, um, I realized like, oh wait, I really do have so much resources available to me. I just have to change the way that I look for them, or change the way that I think it should appear to me. And once I did that, then it was like, oh well, that's a resource and that's a resource, and and I think that's one thing that I really want a lot of people to understand is like, you really don't need money, you need resources.
Yeah. And I want to just to stretch the thinking on that a little bit. You spoke about a list, a 20 list, a 5 list, or what have you, right? Now, you were in that case, for that example, it was the day.
Right.
This day, I will create this list for this day and see how it goes. I'm goal orientated to some extent as well. Um, what I suggest is creating a list of the things you actually want
Mm,
and the things you don't want.
mm,
We talk about vision creating.
mm,
If you just, oh, it's all in my head, well, that's all it ever ends up being is in your head. If you create that list that you've got it written down, it's concrete kind of thing, does it mean that it's going to unfold like that? Probably not. However, what it will do is it gives some guidance to you seeing where you actually do want to go. Because when you start to put those things down, like I said, if things change in a heartbeat, you've got that list and you can look at that list and go, okay, well, is this list still the same?
mm,
What can I change on this list? What can I use on this list? Because if things change dramatically today for me, I know how we would totally change our lifestyle and be totally excited about that versus scared crapless,
mm.
right? So it's a list on one hand is extremely important when you know what you're doing with that list.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And as a writer, I have so many notebooks, and I'm always constantly, I like to do check-ins. So like in the beginning of the year, I have like, oh, my goals for the year, and then I'll revisit it the middle of the year, and then I'll look back at it at the end of the year. And I really enjoy that because one, yes, yes, because one, it's amazing to see what I want, what I thought I wanted at the beginning of the year, and what I really wanted at the end of the year. To see that shift and to see that grow. Also, to see how much I've accomplished, because, like I said earlier, we're constantly doing sometimes that I tend to forget how much I actually do and how much
Mm.
I actually accomplish. So I like to go back and say, you know what? Oh, wow. Like, I actually accomplished almost everything. Like last year, almost everything I set out to do, I accomplished. But, in the midst of it, you just like, just keep going. But for that reason, and then also, for the things that I want, I like to look back and say, "Oh, well, I actually got this," and I like to get detailed, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, "Well, I didn't get it like that. It actually came like this, but I got it nonetheless." And so that also helped me be like, "Okay, don't be so strict about how things come, because."
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, and really, I don't know, it's kind of like 10 out of 10. It never comes how I imagine it in my head, right? Um, None of us
Can
can
I give an
predict the
example of
future.
that? Can I
Uh,
give an example of that? For like I do a vision book, so every year I write 50 items down at the beginning of the
mhm,
year-ish or the end of the year before that I would like to accomplish over this year and into the future. It's not
mm,
all just into this year, okay?
yeah,
So for a number of years I kept writing down that I wanted to be able to spend the kind of money on a pair of glasses, seeing glasses, that wasn't just going to Walmart and buying,
right.
the $20 pair of glasses. And I said this year after year after year. Like it was ridiculous how I said that. And yet I knew it would cost me probably $600 to buy a pair
Mm,
of glasses. Well, it finally dawned on me a number of years into doing this that I actually have had the ability to go get a pair of glasses through a system, meaning that, okay, for those of you who probably don't know me at all, I'm considered status Indian in Canada where I live. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am because of my heritage. And with that, I could actually get a pair of glasses for free, a
mm,
$600 pair of glasses. And yet I'd written this on my list thinking that I need to have the money in my pocket to do this. And I kept putting it off, putting it off, putting it off because I thought that I needed to have the money in my pocket. So instead,
Mm,
as I continued to write that into my list, I started to move past that human concept of thinking and let it come to me in whatever manner that it wanted to come to me, for the highest good, for the most benevolent reasons, the greatest good of all. And boom, I got the glasses probably 2 months later. It was ridiculous.
Attention cosmic wanderers. Have you lost access to your wonder frequency? Welcome to the Department of Inner Child Affairs, a galactic service branch dedicated to the radical restoration of joy, curiosity, and core starseed giggles. Offerings include multidimensional crayon retrieval, Dragon Archetype activation sessions, emotional sandbox simulations, and the mandatory cosmic nap upgrade, Reclaim the You that remembers. Because destiny starts with play, side effects may include spontaneous laughter, quantum clarity, and time loop healing. Apply within.
well, yeah, but see, that is exactly, and I love that you said that because we get these ideas in our head like okay, I want this thing, and so this is what you typically have to do to get this thing, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, the resources, we have to look at what's available to us because money, the energy of money, abundance comes in so many ways, and there are so many resources out there. So for you, that resource was actually sitting back and saying, oh, wait a second, because of my heritage, I have the ability to get this thing without having to spend a dime. You
Wild.
know, amazing. And just that's the thing that I like really uh want people to understand, because I've experienced this mostly in the past 2 years of my life, where I went through a whole thing, life blew up, everything stripped from me, everything I was working so hard for. I had to, they say, starting from experience, but it was from scratch, but experience as well. And I had to rebuild everything, and I was like just stuck in that, like, you know, I lost everything, and so now I have to do all these things to get back to this point, and this and that, and once I really sat down and looked, one, I was relieved because, well, everything, I wasn't on the right track as far as my purpose. I wasn't happy. Um, but two, actually had access to way more abundance after I lost everything. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, wait a second, I am doing much better. It's insane, and it turned out like I didn't have to pay for food. I didn't have to pay for a roof over my head. I didn't have to pay for my cell phone. I didn't have to pay to take care of my pets. All this abundance just came out of everywhere. But in the beginning, I was like, well, I don't have the money to do it like
Yeah.
this. So I feel like, I'm lacking, until I shifted my mindset and realized, like, oh, wait, everything is taken care of. I actually don't need money. And that was like, sometimes I still am like, wow, I've been living the past 2 years without money, and that's like, I could have never imagined that like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I do a lot of looking on YouTube. We don't have cable for television per se, but we do have the internet, and by choice, because then I can choose what I'm watching instead of it coming
Yes.
at me. And so in that process, I find it's really remarkable how many, like, when I start to think about something, talk about something, yes, you hear the proverbial big brother's watching. Well, yeah, it is, but it's also to recognize it's a bigger energy that's actually watching and listening. So
Mm,
it's not necessarily the big brother per se. And things will start to show up in the YouTube channels that are actually leaning towards what we want to do. So for instance, we want to do the traveling and that. Well, now we're getting videos that are showing up that are about living in this country or that country, and it only costs this much or that much
Mm,
versus living in this country and that country. So it's really interesting how when you start to put it out there and you like you said, and I don't think we could drive this home enough,
right.
is this resources. It's the resources you actually have at your fingertips that are
Mm,
going to get you through anything. And it's the
mm,
resources that you have within yourself as well. Very
yes,
powerful.
absolutely. Yes, I think that's the biggest thing that you just said. The resources that we have within, right? We are our biggest resource because we are all of everything. And we can tap into that whenever we allow ourselves. And like you said, it's amazing how the algorithm of the universe works.
Yes.
Um, to be able to, because one thing, I am a nomad, and one thing I was looking into was traveling to other countries without having to spend money. And it was just a thought in my head, and I'm like, well, how can I do this? And then once I actually said that out loud, then I was like inundated with all of these ways, like, oh, you want to do it, well, here's a way, and here's a way, and you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second, it was just thought. But it's really like amazing how that works, and it's nothing but um once you put that out there, then the universe is always going to respond. You just have to be
Yeah.
open and aware to receive. But yeah, I love that. And
I want to just swing this back around to what
yeah.
your first question with me, with your beautiful question thing there. The question was, what would I name Earth if I was going to rename it? And I said the testing ground. And really, that's what it is we are each, every day, all of our lives being tested to see how resourceful we can actually be.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. I just got chills from that because that's so true.
Near my hair.
That's absolutely true. And I think now people are starting to understand, like, okay, there's been all these possibilities, and I just have to figure out like the resources and where, I think it's like so much information, so you kind of gotta like sort through it all. But I think people are starting to understand that there is more things available to us, especially with the internet now, uh, that really there's no excuse. There really is no excuse at all. And on that note, let's talk about inner child healing. And that's something that I was really working. I've been working through a lot through these past 2 to 3 years, and I think having to come face to face with my inner child in a situation like I said, and I don't even talk about this often, but I have lived the past 2 years without any money, um, and uh, embrace through that, embracing like how I was as a youth, right? That energy of everything is taken care of, and also in that, having to have my adult self face my child self and say, hey, you know, we actually need to come together
Very
and,
much.
not be divided. And also, I had to do some extra healing, like whoever told you that, you had to live life this way, and push away all the things that made you uniquely yourself. It's okay. You can bring that out again. This is a good time to really embrace that inner child. And with that came through healing parental things.
Yep.
I like to say that my mom was like my final boss in on this level, and to really come face to face with that, I realized that we are all just trying to heal our inner child, and that allowed me to give my parents a lot of grace. Um, because yeah. And my parents are old school. They're like, therapy and healing inner child. It's like, but through healing mine, I start to see, my dad has since passed, but my mother, I start to see her working through some of those things just by me healing my own stuff.
Yes.
Um, so, like, how has inner child healing helped you in your journey?
That's such a loaded question, and I hear so many layers to that because um, it's what we've been talking about all along. It's that really
Right.
recognizing the things that have been put in front of me that I've been dictated to do. And so really recognizing, someone actually said to me the other day, they go, that, you know what I get from you as an adult is how much you like to play. And I'm like, I took that and I embraced that in such a beautiful way because yes, that's what I like to do. I like to play. I'm on my mountain bike. I like to hike. I like to walk. I can go on and on. The thing is that I may not have felt that as a child, that I was able to play the way that I wanted to play. Like maybe it was a different bike that I had than everybody else, or maybe it was that we weren't allowed to go over here and bike or something like that. But, really recognizing the things that I'm now letting my inner child do through myself as an adult. Also, a really big part of this was really recognizing and hear these words, like seriously, everybody, is that our parents, their inner child was shut down, their parents' inner child was shut down. So this comes from a long line of being shut down. And we may be the first in the generations to actually let that inner child out. And it is so true that how we act affects seven generations forward and seven generations back. So if I'm healing my inner child in this lifetime, that work is beginning to happen with our parents going backwards and our children and their children's children ahead. So,
Hmm. Yeah. And like I said, I see it firsthand in my own life. I, as you were saying that, I remember when I was younger, I was like probably in my early 20s. And I chose not to have children for a reason. I wanted to live in this state for as long as possible. Not to say that if you have children, you can't, because my one sister, she is like, she's the perfect mother because she just loves just the lighthearted. I call her a fairy.
okay.
She definitely has fairy energy, but she's just really like childlike in her energy. And so, not to say if you have kids you can't be that way, but for me, I chose not to because I wanted to exist in this energy for as long as possible. But I remember one thing that my mother said to me, and it always stuck with me because I looked at her, I was like, I don't, why would you say that? But she's like, oh, you should have children so you can grow up. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, what? Why would I? First of all, why do I need to grow up? Like, why would I do that? And two, I would never put a child in that situation just because I'm like, I enjoy, well, one, I'm an introvert, so I'm not going to put a child through that. But two, it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
She will have
what's
heard that
wrong?
though. She will have heard that from a parent who's heard it from
Mm,
a parent who's heard it from a parent.
mm,
And
yeah.
so they all chose to grow up. You're
Mm,
choosing to hold on to that inner child. That's beautiful.
yeah,
I
yeah. But
admire you.
yeah, that always stuck with me. I'm just like, yeah, that was just the strangest thing to say. But but I understand, like you said, it was one of those things where it's like, well, we had to grow up and be adults and live life like this, so you should do that too. And it's like, no, okay, I can live my life how I choose to live my life. And I did have to deal with that from my family looking at me as the immature one because I was so free. And I'm like, well, I chose this. This is very intentional. This
Yeah.
wasn't, and But I worked through those things, and I think now they understand more about why I chose to be this way, and they get it now. And so I enjoy seeing them embrace more childlike energy now, but it was rough because they were like, oh, you're so immature.
It's so interesting hearing you speak about this because by choice in 2019 we chose to live a more nomadic life, and we still do. And there were all kinds of bits and pieces of traveling that we did that led up to us choosing to do
Mm,
it full time at that time. And it has come back, and it hasn't bitten us in the butt, I'll tell you that much. It hasn't at all. Like we've thoroughly enjoyed our life and will enjoy the nomadic way of life, period.
mm,
However, there have been family dynamics that have thought, oh, we can't have them be this because they're that. And
mm,
it's so comical because um, when the I don't even know what the phrase is, but there's something about when something falls into place, the ones who are there holding up everything.
mm.
Who is that? It's in our case, it's the nomadic ones.
Right.
It's the ones who've chosen to live their life on their terms, who actually can witness how they can step in and help other people in different ways because of how they've chosen to live life on their own terms.
Hmm.
That's a powerful place to be.
You're 100% right. 100%. And, you know, as a nomadic person and then being in the culture, I do see now that like a lot of nomads go through the same thing with their families. At first, they look at them like, "Ah, you're like, what are you doing?" And then later, as they see, because at the end of the day, I realize like, and I'm sure a lot of us realize is like leading by example. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And people eventually have no choice but to, once they see the light and the love and the happiness and the joy, and they're like, well, oh, maybe we were wrong about that. Or like, and then they start asking you, well, what are you doing? How can I,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get into some of that? And that's like awesome to see people opening up to this idea of life doesn't have to be the way that you thought it does for you to live a happy, fulfilling life. In fact, it's like more fulfilling on the other side, you know?
Moving out of the human concept of things.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely love that, and then I love my nomads. But let's talk about the dragon archetype. How did
Mm.
you come up with that concept?
Wow, wow. So, you mentioned earlier that you felt the energy coming up in December. People had expressed to you that dragon energy would come up in December, and now this is something that's been coming up for some time. And I remember sitting in my living room in November of that same year,
Mm,
and I was listening to this frequency music on YouTube, and literally heard the word the Dragon Ally. And I'm like, oh, okay, what is that? And then I kind of energetically opened up my eyes. I didn't
mm,
physically open my eyes, but I energetically opened up my eyes to expand out and see what was going on. And there were literally dragons laying, standing, sitting, just all around me. And it was just a very, very beautiful thing to witness. And so I started to lean into what is this? What is the dragon ally? What does this mean? And then inner dragon energy started to come up. And I'm like, okay, well, this is something that is totally off the chart, brand new. I don't know what this is about at all. And I kept exploring that. I was on a caregiving role for my parents. I was 6 weeks at their house. I was going to come home, and on my way home, my vehicle broke down. And in the breaking down, that meant I was now put into the situation where I had no vehicle. I had to stay in this one place for 3 nights. What was I
mm,
going to do with this time? Because I did not have my regular method of enjoyment, which is my mountain bike, with me.
mm.
And so I asked, what am I doing here? And was literally told, well, you have all these oracle and tarot cards. You are going to ask the question about what is inner dragon for humanity. Well, that has snowballed over the last, gosh, year, just over a year now. While we're doing this, it's been over a year now that I've been in this, and I'm seeing the potential of this inner dragon energy of being online with human design. This is how
Yeah.
powerful this is. Okay, so the inner dragon archetype are things, names you're familiar with: the creator, the guardian, the healer, the sage, the seeker, the visionary, and the warrior. So these are the 7 archetypes, and then you have your 7 main chakras. So you do this archetype quiz to find out which archetype it is, and then you do the chakra dragonfly quiz to find out which chakra is most involved with this archetype, and it's incredible what unfolds from there. And this is now literally like it goes beyond description. I think there's too much happening in this for me to go, well, this is what it is.
Right. Right.
but but know with some certainty that this could be a big game changer for humanity in my way of thinking, because with the inner dragon energy coming online, it's our action taker. Our inner child has been a protector of us because we've been taught to protect ourselves. The inner dragon energy is that action taker. It's the part that wants to move. Our inner child is housed in our solar plexus, our belly. That's why we get those emotions, those feelings. Our inner dragon is in our heart. It's the heart of who we are, and when we start to care about ourselves, that's our inner dragon helping us to take action in our lives in a different way. So
Mm.
that's a nutshell.
Yeah, no, but okay, yeah, I did take the dragon quiz and the dragonfly. And you're absolutely right. This is like the new the new and improved human design, because it really is just because I've been studying all of everything that makes up who I am, as far as like my natal, human design, every little life path, every little thing, for the past year or two. And so when I took that, I had already had all this information, and I read it, and it was to the T, everything that I've already studied. And wow, this is amazing, but with that little extra added edge to it. And so, yeah, I received the Visionary Dragon, which my human design, I am a projector, um, and a seer. So, and then the dragonfly, I believe it was the orange dragonfly.
Okay, creator.
Um, yeah, so I was like, wow, like in one of the things it says, which is also what my human design says, is have the ability to see all possibilities. And, that was something that I had to learn to work with, because it is something that I knew. As well, I'll tell you a short story. I only knew that because, um, well, kids are cruel and kids pick
Yep.
on you and want to fight you and all of these things, and especially when you're a quiet introvert person. And I, like, no lie, every time somebody would like, oh yeah, we're gonna fight, and I would stand there in front of them, and before anything could happen, I would see every single outcome of what would happen, and by the end of it, I'd be like, why would I even put myself in this situation? Just looking at me like, ugh. And I'm like, yeah, forget this. I'm the because I literally see every single outcome, and that's when I first noticed being able to see all the possibilities. But I guess because that was like a fight or flight, literally fight or flight situation, that it was very prominent. Um, but then I, started using that into every area of my life, and also with people. I enjoy one of my gifts, talents, skills, abilities is to be able to see people's gifts and point them out to them. And so I was like, wow, this is, I never thought of it as a visionary, just a curse, really, because I'm like, sometimes I just want to do something and not worry about like every outcome, you know. But yeah, I just thought it's so awesome, and I think it really, really is relevant. And I implore everybody to take this quiz because you would really, your eyes would be open. I loved it.
I want to say something to what you just said there, because I think it's really important to understand what you've just said is you were in this position of you were doing things naturally. You may not have recognized the power of them, and when you did this quiz, you started to recognize a whole different idea of this. And this is very much of recognizing your zone of genius, that this is actually a natural thing that I can lean into and help people with. So I'm a healer, and mine is the yellow. It's the yellow dragonfly, which is a solar plexus
Mm.
with regards to the inner dragon archetype and the chakra dragonfly. And I had to heal myself. And this is what I help people with now too, is how they can then step into healing themselves. And when all this came online, it just yeah, it's so powerful, and it's beyond description. It's really is beyond description of what the possibilities are with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, same. It actually helped me really embrace it. Like you said, it was something that I was just doing, but then that made me be like, oh, this is like my one of my superpowers, and really embracing that instead of just, oh, it's this thing, and probably everybody can do it, and I realized that when everyone has a gift, but because it comes so natural to us that we're just like, oh, everybody can do it, and sometimes it helps to have something say like, no, this is your gift, this is your superpower, lean into that, as you said. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
yeah, I mean, beautiful. And on that, it's something more recently that I've been experiencing, kind of like how you came into the dragon and dragon energy. um More recently, probably over the past, I want to say, well, this year is already flying by. So, the last 8 months, I was doing a meditation, and in that meditation, like I've been practicing, setting my roots in the earth. But what I heard was, "Can you feel the pulse of the awakening?" Yeah, and that just stuck with me. I'm like, "Whoa, what is this?" And it was like, and then I would hear it, and like, I am the pulse of the awakening, and that is like for all of us, right? And so, uh, so in my meditation, I'm like really like feeling feel like now I'm like a part of the earth.
Oh yeah. You
Um,
move past human conception, like the human concept. Seriously.
yeah, yeah. And I'm still trying to figure it all out. So like but this is all I got so far. Of the plus of the awakening, and it's the awakening, and when I heard about this dragon energy and this activation energy, I'm like, this is a part of the pulse of the awakening. I don't know how all of this ties in yet, but it's going somewhere.
Huge, huge. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's something I'm still, but maybe I'll do like you did, and I'll pull out the oracle cards and start asking
Yeah.
questions, because sometimes I forget, like, ask questions
Yeah.
instead of
And,
sitting
and you
here
know
like,
what? Like just over this last week, like things are shifting so very, very rapidly. So even over the last week, last couple of days, um, like I was aware that there were also already like about a month ago that there are literally mantras for every single chakra for every single
mm,
archetype. So there's 49 mantras that a human being could lean into if they so desired, or just the ones that are your specific visionary and the orange chakra, which are like so powerful. And that's what I did. I leaned into my healer yellow chakra ones to the point where I've written them down every day. And when I say written them down, there's your emotions, your physical, your spiritual, and your self identity, right? Are the four aspects of each part of you. So when if you go that route, that's actually even more. That's seven times. That's 49 times four mantras. Having said that, if you adopt the ones that are specifically for your archetype and that chakra that you are most keenly connected into, it is another path that opens up that whole ability that you have. Just like you've said, when you're feeling the pulse of this, I will personally send you the ones for you specifically, with regards to the healer and the visionary and the orange chakra, because when you lean into those, and you will start to embrace that pulse even more so and expand even more, and yeah, it's so fruitful.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that. I definitely um I need to go down this path. I've been so busy that I haven't. It's just in those moments of meditation I did write it on my board just so I don't
Good,
forget.
good.
But I definitely want to dive deeper into
Can I
that.
say something to what you just said
Sh-
there? You know what? And this is the thing: is if we choose to do things in simplistic ways. So all I've done, honestly, for the last month and a half, is like literally write these mantras down every single day. In that simple thing that takes less than 5 minutes, it has changed the dynamics of this year.
Mm,
And that's all I'm doing is I'm taking 5 minutes to write these down every single day.
mm,
So it's not like you have to deep dive and do all this big work. It's like it is so very simple because you're just putting it out there.
mm.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm excited for that. And on a note, if you could describe your inner dragon in 3 words, what would it be?
Blue water, a water blue dragon, a blue water dragon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And why that?
It's just the way that when I close my eyes, I do this little thing with breath where I have a person. Do we have just a quick moment to do
Sure,
this?
sure,
It
yeah.
just takes a couple seconds. So take a moment to breathe like yourself. Take a moment to breathe like your inner child would. Take a moment to breathe like your inner dragon would. Now imagine you could feel the difference in those three parts of yourself. When I breathe my inner dragon, I feel that blue water dragon spiraling up from the soles of my feet to my heart. I can feel that dragon do that, and the blue water dragon that it is.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. I really did feel 3 different ones. My inner child one is very hyperactive. It was
Yeah, and his breathing is just like almost like rapid, right?
right. But
Yeah.
the dragon one was like I felt it. Yeah, like, oh, I love that. Um, and so how has like dragon energy showed up in unexpected ways for you in your life?
Uh, well, I noticed that I am reacting to things differently. That's probably the biggest piece of it. We've had some family kind of emergencies, and I know that for certain I am reacting way differently than I have in the past. Instead of the sobbing, yelling, and by yelling I mean crying out to whomever that I'm not ready or whatever. Instead, I'm just
Mm,
in this other space of energy, of being in acceptance and acknowledging versus. And also too, you spoke about fight and flight. I was walking around my block. It was nighttime, and I could hear this rustle of the leaves, and the wind was blowing and what have you. And I was thinking to myself, "Huh, there's leaves blowing." And then I realized that the wind wasn't actually blowing at that moment. So I turned around
oh.
and looked, and it was a skunk. And I turned back and I went, "Oh, it's a skunk." And I went, "Oh, it's a skunk." And I ran. That's my inner dragon running, because I'm a photographer.
Mm,
I would actually stop and
oh,
attempt to take a picture.
yeah.
That skunk was being aggressive. He was running towards me.
Mm, mm. Oh no.
So this is how my inner dragon is showing up. It's helping my reactions. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely
Wild.
love that. All right. And so I'm going to talk about synchronicities and just signs from the universe, from our higher selves, whatever that helps validate the path that we're on. Um, I
I have a
know.
really good one.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So, as well as writing my mantras down on a daily basis, I've chosen to pull a card on a daily basis. And if I'm in a position where I have no cards available, then I will use a book and use
Mm,
it as a book oracle, right? So I went to bed the one night and I hadn't pulled the card. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll use this book that I'm reading and it'll be page 42. So the next morning I woke up and I thought, okay, well, I'll look and see what it is for what that page was. And when I opened up page 42, it was completely blank.
mm,
And I'm like, wow, the like it's like the world is my oyster. It's like
mm,
I am creating my pathway, and it's just like everything that I've been doing, like writing these mantras on a daily basis, has been opening up that pathway. And to have this page show up that's completely blank, showing me that it's like I heard something, and maybe this is be the best way to explain it. We have fate and we have destiny.
mm,
Fate is when it's dictated by others or whatever that this is the way things are going to happen, but destiny is when that is actually wide open and we can make it happen. And that's
mm.
what this blank page was for me. It was I moved completely out of fate and totally into destiny.
I love that. Yeah,
Powerful, eh?
that is extremely powerful. And, something that I've just been really leaning into more is the idea of destiny. I like to think of life like there's endless possibilities, but I feel like everything uh, is already written, right? But there are endless possibilities. So one thing can shift it and take you down another path and all of these things. But more recently, found uh, destiny for me has I had to reflect back on my whole journey, realizing that this is literally like my destiny, right? I think back to every little thing, like they're are starting to come together now, like all the synchronicities now, like just even from the name of this podcast to it started very very young, something I didn't even think about until like my mid-20s is when the name started coming about, but it was actually when I was a child first, and I forgot about that, but then I was reintroduced to it. And then just even this podcast, it's like I've actually been a performer since I was a child, but I forgot about those things too. Life,
I
and
love
but
this.
everything just kind of came full circle. Um, and I realized like, oh, it's like any direction that I could go is still going to take me to my destiny, right? I don't have to think about it. Like you said, fate is kind of like, oh, uh, things are going to play out like this, and, but destiny is different. It's like really the destiny in my life is to just be me in this energy of love, and that is leading me to where I am supposed to be. And, so I am really now leaning into the idea of destiny and really believing that, like, wow, destiny. I feel like I'm like in one of those books with a sword, and I'm like, yeah, with my dragon behind me. Yeah,
Oh my
destiny.
god. You have no idea. I did a between lives thing, and this gentleman took me into a between life, and in this between life, I am this female warrior in with a big sword, and I have my dragon, and I'm literally standing on this cliff precipice
Yeah,
before a council. Like it's wow.
yeah, like that's how I'm feeling phone, right? Oh, counsel. Oh my goodness. When you said that, something just flashed in my head, right? I did this shamanic meditation, and it was like you enter a tree, and inside the tree, you walk down the
Yeah.
stairs, and it leads you out into like a really old forest. But I remember in this, when I was walking down the stairs, I seen a long rectangle table, and the table, there were these figures sitting around the table. And as I'm, coming down the stairs, they're just looking at me, but they didn't say anything. And I just was looking at them, and I just like, okay, well, I'm following the meditation, so I exited. But I don't know even why I'm saying that, and all I just know is just you said that, and that flashed in
Okay.
my head. Yeah.
I love the energy of that, because this is one of the things now that you can explore.
Mhm.
There's simple questions, right? Were they there waiting for me specifically? Am I a member of, or am I a leader of? Like, it's just so many different questions that you can ask with that, right? Very
Right.
powerful.
Yeah. And the only other time I saw that before was in my dream. I get a lot of messages in my dreams, and usually the most important part is that when we're in that REM sleep and I'm about to wake up, and that's usually where I hear the clearest message. And I think I was learning about non-linearity, and it was this table again, and then it was this figure. Didn't really have a distinguishable face, but it definitely wasn't from here. And it looked at me and it said, "You finally get it." And then I woke up, and then I never saw the again. It's like,
So, and the message was driven home by your recognizing the pulse.
mm,
Okay, just so you know, there's another piece of that.
mm. Yeah, this is the fun of life and the journey, because it all comes in like bits and pieces at random times, and I enjoy putting it together like, oh, I remember that. And I love life. I just I love the mystery and the magic
Me
of
too.
putting the puzzle together, and knowing that I'll never see the full puzzle, but just finding the pieces is the fun in it all. I love it. And so let's talk about your 30-day challenge, um, and how that helping it how excuse me, how that is helping people heal themselves.
You know, that I run it twice a year. I run it at the beginning of the year. So that first one is all about really, setting an intention and then getting to know your inner child and your inner dragon, and limiting beliefs, expectations. These type of things come up in that first 30-day one, and it was created because I had a need to do something for myself. However, in the creating of it, like, I literally sat down for 6 hours and boom, 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 created this 30-day challenge, right? And I recognized that if I felt that I needed this, that likely others needed it. And so that one came and went, and it was so magical to hear other people, sending me emails or speaking about it in public places, about what they were experiencing that. So when the next one comes around, so they come in January and July. January is the inner child, inner dragon, the intention, learning about that, exploring what they are together. We dive a lot deeper into the July one, where you're going into a 30-day challenge again, and you've set an intention again, except that you're going deeper. So now those layers have already been taken care of there for this go around, because if I do it again next year, it, as we know, layers come up, right? And we'll
Mm,
be at a different space and place and be ready for it. But this going deeper in the next one, it's a really magical thing, because then it's about really understanding the dynamics of how the inner child and the inner dragon play together in a very powerful way, right?
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, it's like you said, it can be constantly relevant, right? Because we're all like onions, peeling away layers and layers of so
Yeah.
much trauma. But not even that, just even like I was saying earlier, like even unlocking the layers of life and our gifts and
It's
our purpose.
awareness.
And yes,
Yeah.
so I mean, I believe that's very powerful. Um, and yeah, so on that, what do you think is the biggest uh, way to activate inner transformation?
Truly, it is about asking yourself to be open with no expectations, no limitations, and recognize that personally, I am personally the one that is creating my outcome, and in that, I want to change my life. If I want to change my life, I have to change how I speak to myself.
Mm, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you said, we hold the power, we hold the key, uh, whether it's in how we talk to ourselves, um, whether it's in how we show up in the world. Um, I just feel like we should be kind to ourselves. That's the one thing I really have been embracing a lot more. Is just saying like random nice things to myself. um,
Like standing in
I
front of the mirror and actually admitting you look good, right?
Right, yeah, I was just about to say, like, walking past the mirror, like, oh, well, hey,
Wow,
yeah,
you're
you
happening
looking good
today.
today, and it's amazing how much that changed how other people see you, because once you feel that confidence, then other people will notice and be like, you'll start noticing you'll get more compliments and stuff like that. I've noticed, like,
People will start
uh,
to say, "Oh, you look younger."
right, right. It's amazing, and I think we underestimate the power in just really taking the time out and just loving on ourselves, right?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, on that note, where is the universe taking you on your next travels? What does it hold for you?
Definitely more deeply with this inner dragon energy. I feel I honestly feel a master deck of cards for the inner dragon archetype. I feel
Love that.
offshoots of each inner dragon archetype having their own oracle decks. I feel the human design version of the inner dragon archetype book coming up. Some really powerful programs, if people want to step into them, have already started to unfold, because it's like come fly, get to know and live your inner dragon energy. Yeah, so I've been put here to do this, and this is what I'm doing.
I love that. And I am so here for the Dragon Archetype Oracle decks. I would definitely be one of the first to order. I love my Oracle decks. And yeah, I can, like, when you said that, I was already, like, envisioning, like, the dragons on the deck and, the little booklet. I love that. And I think so many people will appreciate that as well. And also, like, I promise you guys, take this quiz because it is eye opening. Even if you're like super into human design, I think this is like that extra, like in depth uh, analysis that you need. It is. I think they all work together. Like I said, I'm very big on learning yourself and studying yourself, and I believe this, especially now, is going to be the catalyst to what is already there, right? This is building on top of all those things that's already set into place, and I think it's so powerful. I talked to so many people, which is so interesting. After we originally talked, it was really weird. Everybody after that were just like, "Yeah, so dragons," and I'm like, "Wait a second! Like, this was the first time I'm hearing about it. Now everybody's talking about the dragons." It's like, well, definitely a synchronicity, but yeah, I think everyone's getting activated and us and all of these wonderful things. So I'm excited for you to launch those things, and I know many people are going to be excited as well. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Wow, and this has been such a pleasure, and truly, I think you and I can talk for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just still feeling all the energy, and I love it. So I hope to see you in your dragon spaceship again.
And I yours. Thank you so much.
All right. If that wasn't divine timing, I don't know what is.
Divine timing logged. We love synchronicity.
Where to next, Arden?
Trajectory confirmed. Initiating descent into the sanctuary between worlds. Here, thresholds hum with memory and silence.